let's just jump right in. Picture the modern battlefield. It is just completely swamped with data. We're talking drones, satellites, social media feeds. It's a constant, overwhelming flood of information. So, to make any sense of it, artificial intelligence has gone from some sci-fi concept to an absolutely critical tool. But, and this is the big but, with that incredible power comes a whole set of really deep ethical questions. And these aren't being debated in some quiet conference room. They're being figured out in the middle of a war.
So, here's what we're going to cover. First, how AI even got onto the battlefield. Then we'll look at Ukraine as a real-time lab for all this tech. We'll explore the double-edged sword, the tension between the good and the bad. After that, we'll see how rules are literally being written under fire. And finally, we'll ask, what does this all mean for the future of conflict itself?
All right, first up, AI enters the battlefield. What problem is it actually trying to solve here?
To really get a sense of the stakes, just listen to this warning from the International Committee of the Red Cross. This isn't just about some new piece of military hardware. We are talking about a fundamental change in warfare that could have consequences we can never walk back from. It really doesn't get more serious than that.
You see, the core problem today isn't a lack of information. It's the exact opposite. There's way too much for any human or even a team of humans to process fast enough. The old fog of war wasn't about not seeing the enemy. Today, it's about being blinded by just too much data. AI is the tool that's being used to cut through all that noise, to find the important signals, and to do it at machine speed.
Now, let's see how this all plays out on the ground in our main case study, Ukraine's digital war. This is where all that theory smacks right into reality.
And the impact? It's pretty staggering. We're talking about a 3 to 4 times higher rate of successfully hitting targets when you use an AI-enhanced drone versus a manually operated one. I mean, think about that. That's not a small improvement. That is a game-changing advantage that could absolutely decide the outcome of a battle.
So how is that kind of advantage even possible? Well, a platform like Delta here is basically the brain of the operation. It takes all these different data streams, drones, satellites, intel reports, and uses AI to weave them all together into one single real-time map. What that does is compress the time it takes to make a decision from hours, maybe even longer, down to just minutes. And in modern war, that kind of speed is survival.
And this isn't just about 1 or 2 cool pieces of software. Ukraine has had to build an entire defense tech ecosystem pretty much from scratch, out of pure necessity. You've got state-backed hubs like Brave One that are pushing innovation forward, hundreds of local companies building cheap and effective drones, and even ground robots joining the fight. And, this is key, you have the guiding principle of human in the loop, which makes sure that, for now at least, a person is the one making that final life or death call. So, we've seen the incredible power and, frankly, the necessity of this technology. Now, let's talk about the flip side of that coin, the double-edged sword. And this right here really gets to the heart of the whole dilemma. On one hand, you have the urgent needs of war, speed, precision, and keeping your soldiers alive. AI can boost all of those things dramatically. But on the other hand, you have these huge long-term risks, biased data that can lead to tragic errors, massive gaps in accountability when something goes wrong, and the pretty scary possibility that this tech gets misused long after the fighting stops. Let's dig into those risks. If you train an AI on biased or incomplete data, it could misidentify a school bus as a tank. When a strike gets called based on that bad data, who's to blame? The programmer? The commander who trusted the system? The machine itself? This is what experts call the problem of many hands. And it's not just about mistakes. Adversaries are using AI to build smarter malware to launch more sophisticated cyber attacks. And imagine being a civilian, living under the constant watch of AI-powered surveillance. The psychological toll is immense and long-lasting. This quote just nails the bigger societal risk here, right? Technologies developed for war have a funny way of coming home. For instance, Ukraine is now thinking about a nationwide video monitoring system using facial recognition, all for public safety. Now, the goal might be security, but it immediately raises these fundamental questions about power and control. Who gets to watch us, and who decides who gets to watch? Which brings us to our next big question. Faced with this impossible dilemma, how do you even begin to build rules for a technology while you're actively using it to survive a war? So this is what's truly amazing. Ukraine isn't waiting for the war to end to think about this stuff. The government has already put together a national AI regulation roadmap and a white paper.
They are actively trying to align their policies with international standards, like the EU AI Act, basically signaling to the world that they're committed to building an ethical framework, even in the middle of a brutal conflict.
One of the key tools they're testing out is this framework called HIDARIA from the Council of Europe. It's a mouthful, but it stands for Human Rights, Democracy, and Rule of Law Impact Assessment. The important thing is, it's not a one-size-fits-all rulebook. It's a process. First, you do a risk analysis based on the specific situation. Then, you bring everyone to the table, legal experts, civil society, the people who will actually be affected. And from that, you create specific measures to reduce harm. It's basically a blueprint for how to innovate responsibly when the stakes are this high.
So where does all this leave us? Let's turn to our final section, the future of conflict.
You know, the hard reality is that just banning military AI isn't really an option. Authoritarian countries are not going to stop developing it. And the real danger is that if democracies take a step back, they basically abandon the field, surrendering control over how this incredibly powerful technology is designed and used. So the question isn't if AI will be used in defense, it's how we're going to use it responsibly. And that leaves us with what might be the defining question of our time. Ukraine's experience is forcing the entire world to confront this challenge. Right now, the race is on, not just to build smarter weapons, but to actually embed our deepest values into the code itself. And how we answer this question